gentlemen. I'm Yannick, here's Michelle, and today we're going to tell you about smart hospitals. We're team DataSAM, a team of 6. 3 from Aldo University and 3 from Swinburne University located in Australia. And our client is an IT company called DataSAM, also located in Australia. So let's talk about our initial brief, which stated that hospitals use a lot of different items, such as wheelchairs, hospital beds, and for patient care. However, sometimes these items get lost, misplaced, or stolen, and that costs a lot of money and a lot of time. So our task is to solve this problem by using real-time location system, or in short, RTLS. So the next logical step was then to investigate what is an RTLS, and it can be defined as a tracking location system that uses wireless technologies to identify the exact position of any specific asset or personnel within a facility. So in hospital context, with RTLS, we can track patients, equipment, and staff. Furthermore, on the technology side, RTLS can be built by using one or combination of different technologies. For example, RFID is used for identification, and Bluetooth Low Energy is for accurate high accuracy positioning. So given these parameters, we then started to explore our design space. And our initial question was that, how accurate should we be? And we tested out in Design Factory. And the insight was that smaller the item, the better accuracy we should provide. And the second question was after that how far are you willing to go for the information? And we tested again. And again, the insight was that the smaller the item, the more desperate you are for the location information. So after these insights, we then tested how accurate we can go fairly easily. So we mapped it out the Design Factory, and we were able to locate ourselves in the copy room, which means that we can at least provide room level accuracy. And after these initial tests, we were quite lucky, and we were able to visit some of the technology or RTLS solution providers. And we found out that RTLS is much more than just finding items. It's about patient safety. It's identification of patients, infection control, and hand hygiene, and locating the patient in case of emergency. RTLS can be also used for operations, which includes staff locating each other, automating processes such as temperature monitoring or patient flow. And when you have the data, perhaps the biggest value is the business intelligence. It's the analytics and automate reports and find the bottlenecks that provide you the visibility for the processes, which leads to better decision making and cost savings. And lastly, we have the asset tracking, when in reality it's more about asset management and asset utilization, which means that the right question is that what is the status of the equipment? Does it need to be cleaned? If it does, who cleans it? And when it's cleaned, where do you put it? And whose responsibility is it? So it's quite clear that RTLS is used for a holistic system. And the argument is quite clear. If you have a system that costs a lot, hospital wants to utilize it as much as possible. So at this point, we started to question our initial brief. And to make things worse, we found out that there are so many competitors already in the market, which has a really good offering. The company's logos inside the big circles are the holistic RTL system, which has all or most of the offerings that we mentioned previously. And they have been on the industry for more than 15 years. And one of them has, for example, 17 patents on the technology. So if we would choose that route, we would just prove that we can build the same system. And that is not innovation, and that is not the spirit of this course. So at this point, it started to make quite clear that we need to open up our brief and start to have more room to explore.
Yes. So, as you can see from his set, that we don't have any problem technology-wise. Besides that, we just need a few €100,000, 10 people, 3 to 5 years, depends on the building and the structure of the hospital. So basically, do we really want to go back to the history of 10 years, or we want to go further into the future. And then we think like invest into the future of 10, 20 years, what the hospital should be. And then besides technology, when we think about innovation, it should be user-centric. And we cannot really be really user-centric if we don't talk to the people who actually use. So we went to, luckily in the end, we managed to get some access into the hospital to interview the hospital management, the head nurse, and then some different nurse and doctor in different departments to understand clearly what the problem they are having, and also to understand that what is the basic routine, what they are doing on the daily activity, what is their frustration, and then what is their enjoyment at work. From that, we managed to mark down the current problem of the hospital, that we group them into 4 categories: communication, patient flow, logistics, and infrastructure. Communication-wise, the thing that seems the most obvious but have been the problems in the last 100,000 years and have never been solved. That how the nurse can communicate patient information. Basically, what the nurse in Finland doing at the moment, that they write information data into computer, and then the nurse coming for the next shift, they will check from the computer and then they will know. So 60% of the time the nurse doing is in front of the computer, not to take care of the patient. And still there's some very crucial information missing out. The next thing is the interaction between the nurse and the patient. How the nurse can make sure that they get all the information from the patient, and how they can make sure that the patient are listened and then they feel comfortable during their visit. The next thing is patient flow. Well, like in a very, very, how do you say, like cruel words, that basically the hospital just want to get rid of all patients as soon as possible. Then so that they can have space and room and bed for the new people coming. And then how they can minimize the time for each patient transaction. And then from that, the nurse have very big stress and frustration that they have very limited time to talk to the patient, but then to be very clearly understand what is the problem, what is their illness, and then to decide like which department they can send the patient into, what kind of test, for example. Then the next one is what Yoni mentioned about expensive item keep missing. But then with the current situation, if something is expensive, the nurse who taking care of that, they really do it very well. So the thing is really missing. And in case something happens, the solution they have is easily they will go talk around in the building, send email to different departments and ask like, if you happen to see that thing. And then the inventory management. Then the infrastructure, at least in Finland at the moment, in Hartman they have more than 3 different IT systems. And the nurse basically need to use all of them at the same time, because the system needs to integrate data with different departments or different public sector, and that will triple their time, and then it causes a lot of frustration from their work. And last but not least, something very small but very important that we learned from one nurse, that basically they need to be hand-free during their work so that they can take care of the patient. But their nurse uniform is really tight, without any extra big pocket room, so they cannot really fit even the high-tech like mobile phone because the screen is too big. So if we want to come up with some kind of smart technology, we need tablet or mobile for mobility. So how can the nurse carry with that? From those problems, we decided to expand our initial grip from indoor tracking into smart hospital. And then we come up with different components that smart hospital may have. For example, visualization, how we can create a solution that provides user-friendly, so non-tech people like nurse and doctor they can use. Or how we can have like multitasking device, for example, maybe attach mobile with smart shoe, we can cooperate with Team Berka and then come up with something. Augmented reality or communication. And like the communication is a very interesting thing, because it has been mentioned quite many times during our interview and research. So we decided to investigate further into that. And we come up with a problem to solve the documenting issue. That instead of nurse typing information into computer, how about doing the audio record? And then this is the test when we just want to try like whether people prefer to type or to do audio record their report. And then we test with a few people, some very skeptic from the beginning about the audio record. But then after the first try, they said that they really like it because it saves a lot of time. And then we also have a recorder with the same piece of information. Audio records save 50 to 70% of your time. And even with the test we have with people in design factory, they are really fast with computer. Still, it saves that time. So compare with us, we can assume that like instead of 60% of their time, we can minimum into 10% of their time of the day to do the reporting. And technology-wise, how can we do that? So, like, obviously you may think that the audio record already available with your phone, but we want to do it like in moduling. So for example, if they're not just say name Michelle, and then the information Michelle will be automatically input into the form. So it will save the formatting time. And then we build a mock-up website that to check like whether we can do that. So if you see from our brochure, there will be the QR code, and then you can scan it with your mobile, and then you can get access into our website and try that. So next step, we just open up our brief now. So the next step for us will be scan more the opportunity and different idea how we can do the smart hospital. So in case you have any suggestion, any ideas, yes, you are welcome to have us. Thank you. Yes, please.
Thanks for the presentation. My question is, what dictated the segment that you're working in? Because now we're talking about like smart hospitals. That means like very highly developed countries. But I'm saying that in many other hospitals, like in Africa, in developing countries, the situation is much worse. People probably never heard about augmented reality and stuff like that. So what dictated the segment you're working in?
Yeah, basically the client wanted to be a high technology that is first implemented in the first world with more technology. And when it's implemented, they provide the monetization, and then it can be implemented to third world countries. So
because the comment is like an idea or something like that. So when you like try to develop one more sophisticated technology, right? So you go into like highly developed countries and you call it innovation, but innovation can be also going to an like step behind like an easier level, right?
Yeah.
So and the market could be much bigger.
Yeah, we have been also exploring that, but the client was quite specific that they want a technology that is disruptive.
Paradise.
Yeah. So it was kind of that the client is not satisfied in the low technology. We're still exploring that because then can be added to the high technology solution.
Okay.
Well, basically because our client is IT company, so that's what he want, and then try to specific with his business model. Yes, please.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I think you have identified quite relevant topics. But I kind of missed the brief. Like you were referring to it quite often. Is the smart hospital in your brief somewhere, or okay?
Yeah.
Like what was your brief in
It was
detail?
finding items get lost, track it with RTLSs.
So it doesn't matter wherever it is.
Yeah.
Like what's the
In
field?
the
So it can be
hospital,
whatever it is.
yeah.
It has to be in a hospital.
Yeah, hospital. It's not in the hospital.
All right.
So
Okay. And so what is this DataSAM doing? Because I have never heard of it before.
yeah, that's a good question.
That's a good question.
Because we have tried to figure it out also ourselves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then you can't help me.
Yeah. We have like outsiders who also like try to how do you say tell us what is the company doing, but we
Well,
don't really.
in a nutshell, that DataSAM is kind of a startup only, and then the founder, he has been working for many years in Oracle and data administration for healthcare sector in Australia. So that's why he see that many company doing the same thing, and then maybe he see the market potential. So he would like to enter the market.
All right. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It seems again really interesting. You showed a lot of companies are. I'm not fully sure if all of those companies are developing these RTLS solutions, but have you identified what's the biggest reason why they haven't been like fully adopted, or have they been adopted in some countries to the hospital?
Yeah, let's say that the hospital needs to be big enough so that they can utilize the system. For example, the EKH, which we interviewed, said that their biggest hospital has 168 buildings. So in that case, it's like you don't want to find the one item, you just want to manage it and find it. Use the department A needs 100 beds and department B needs 50 beds. And you have no idea how many beds, and you start to see what is it, and you balance it out with time. So that is kind of the main value for the RTL system. And
Yes, like, and then actually finance is the most important thing because the current system will cost you like minimum 500K to 1 million K, 1 million euro. So basically, so basically the hospital when they do that, they need to be really careful. At the moment, mostly US and then some very developed country, they adopt it. For example, we get the information from HUS. So in Finland, HUS also want to have the positioning like the same system. But another problem from the hospital side that they have so many different departments and each department have their own operational style. So each department have their own problem. And even with the HUS ICT company, the one who take care of the system, they want to have a tracking system in HUS, but they don't know what's in the real need and what the nurse in the hospital really want to do. And then there come the budget team, so they said, yeah, we don't have enough budget to investigate the problem or do the need finding. So, yeah, in that case, for me, in my opinion, this is something like technology trend, a vibe, but then not really solve the real end user problem issue.
And there is also the bureaucracy, the regulations, so hospitals are really slow to adapt. So even though the technology will be there, the hospitals, they're really slow to take on the technology.
Yes. Lisa? Yes.
Have you, like, if you say that the hospital has to have a certain size, like, there's probably like one in Finland or something that would, like, how many hospitals are there, like, in the world that would actually have them? Like, or do you have an idea of how big the market is, how many hospitals you could actually design for?
For example, the biggest player, Scout, has over 5,000 hospitals.
Okay.
And the EKH didn't consider Finland as the real market.
Yeah.
So that
Okay.
can a little bit gives the scale of the.
Are you planning to go somewhere where there's a hospital that would be
So
interesting to you?
we would like to go Australia. It's
Yeah.
more about money.
Yes.
We have a
There's
reason
one
to
in
go.
Bali.
Yeah.
Yeah, hospitals are not big enough here. So.
Okay, yeah. No, it's a good reason, just saying.
We are waiting for our TA confirmation, so just go.
Yeah.
I haven't asked the same question as I was asking. How is it about working with the Australian students?
Yeah, Australians have been super nice. They have a really good mentality. They have the same exploring mentality. And the only big problem is kind of the time difference. It's like 9 hours or 11 hours. So we would like to communicate more, but usually it's the only time. It's like 10 a.m. and that's usually when we have the large group meeting or a small group meeting. So we need to kind of bend a little bit and try to find out. But we would like to communicate more. But we